At the family Christmas gift exchange, I gave my brother a sealed envelope, 3 months of covered rent. He opened it, looked around, and said, "Tries to compensate for the fact that he's not needed by this family." The whole room erupted with laughter, except for me. I took the envelope back and said, "Useful to know." 10 minutes later, the whole family was shouting, "Please listen to us!" But what happens next will change everything about our family forever. The Christmas gift exchange had begun, and I could feel the weight of expectations hanging in the air. The usual cheer was there, laughter, clinking glasses, and everyone's eagerness to exchange gifts. But as I handed my brother the sealed envelope containing 3 months' worth of rent, $2,400 in cash, neatly arranged in stacks, I knew I wasn't just handing over money. I was offering him a chance, an opportunity for him to step up, to be independent. It was a gesture, hoping he'd understand the value of what I was giving, but that wasn't how he saw it. He opened the envelope lazily, clearly uninterested, as though he already knew what it was. When he pulled out the bills, he raised his eyebrows and said, "Tries to compensate for the fact that he's not needed by this family." His words, sarcastic and cruel, echoed through the room. The laughter that followed from my family was almost deafening, yet I stood there in silence, holding nothing but an empty coffee mug. No one said thank you. No one seemed to care about the sacrifice I had made. Instead, I was met with mockery. I reached over, pulled the envelope back from his hand, and tucked it into my coat pocket. "Useful to know," I muttered, and with that I stood up, feeling the air shift around me. The entire room seemed to go mute. No one said a word. I knew they didn't understand. I wasn't the one who needed to explain myself anymore. "I won't be paying any more bills," I told them firmly, my voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside me. "Jake can handle his own rent from now on." My words fell like a weight on the room. A stunned silence followed before the shouting started. They didn't understand. They told me I was overreacting, that it was just a joke. But I knew better. I had been carrying this family for far too long without any acknowledgement, without any appreciation. The walls had closed in on me. I was done being the one everyone relied on without offering any real support in return. I walked out without saying another word, leaving the door open behind me. No dramatic exit, no slamming of the door, just the quiet realization that something inside me had finally snapped. The fallout was immediate and relentless. Within hours, calls and texts flooded my phone, each one full of guilt-laced apologies, pleas for forgiveness, and manipulative language. My mother sent voice notes trying to guilt-trip me into feeling bad for embarrassing my brother. Not once did she acknowledge the effort I'd put into the gift, the $2,400 that could have made a difference in his life. Not once did she recognize how hurtful Jake's words had been. Instead, the blame was placed on me for reacting too harshly. I was the one in the wrong, according to them. I ignored it all. For the first time in my life, I didn't jump to fix things. I didn't call back, didn't answer the texts. I was done. Days passed and the messages kept coming, each one more insistent than the last. They told me I was overreacting. They told me I would regret it, but the more they pushed, the more resolute I became. I didn't care. By the second day, they were getting more direct. My dad, who had rarely addressed any of this before, was now calling me, trying to smooth things over. He wanted to talk, to fix things. So I agreed. I went over for dinner, not because I expected any kind of resolution, but because I wanted to let them have their say, so I could finally say, mine. The table was set, and as always, everyone tried to act like everything was fine. Jake was still glued to his phone, barely acknowledging anyone. He didn't even look up when I entered, and he certainly didn't offer any apology for the insult he had thrown my way. My mom, ever the peacemaker, tried to act like it was just another family dinner, pushing food around, making small talk, pretending nothing had happened. But I could feel the tension in the air. My dad's forced smile was a mask. I could see the wheels turning behind his eyes, thinking about how to manage the situation. It wasn't long before he dropped the act and started talking about perspective, how money was complicating everything, how it was just bad timing, But then, in the most revealing moment of the evening, he hit me with the real reason he'd called me over. "If you could just help us through February, we'll have things sorted out. Jake's thinking about taking a course. It's just bad timing." That was when I realized they still didn't get it. I had been covering their bills for months, paying their rent, their utilities, fixing their car, bailing Jake out every time he bounced a check. And yet, here they were, still treating me like a resource. A bank. It wasn't about one envelope. It wasn't about the $2,400. This was about years of them relying on me without ever offering anything in return. I had to say it. "I'm done," I told them flatly. "This isn't about one envelope. This is about you all depending on me without ever offering anything back. Jake can handle his own rent from now on." Jake, never looking up from his phone, muttered, "Nobody asked you to." It was said so dismissively, as though his actions didn't matter, as though he wasn't the one who had made this entire situation worse. That was it. The weight of the years of being taken for granted crashed down on me. I stood up and told them calmly that they had 30 days to figure out how to handle their own lives. "I won't be here to bail you out anymore," I said, my voice steady. Mom started crying, saying I was overreacting. Dad tried to downplay it, telling me I'd regret this. But nothing could make me change my mind. Jake went back to his phone as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't just insulted me. I left. No dramatic goodbye. No slammed door. I left the key to the house on the hallway table, walking out with only the echo of my footsteps to accompany me. There was no need to say anything else. The silence of the room was deafening, and it was the loudest thing I'd heard in years. Days turned into weeks, and the silence from my family grew heavier with each passing day. I knew they expected me to come crawling back, as I always had before. It had always been the same routine. They needed help, they called, and I would answer. I would be the one to step in, pay the bills, offer the solutions, and bear the weight of their expectations. But this time, something had shifted in me. I wasn't going to run back to fix things. I wasn't going to play that role anymore. I was done. The idea of being trapped in that cycle had finally broken me, and I had moved on. Amanda and I had been living together since November. It wasn't anything dramatic or grand, it was just two people who genuinely enjoyed being around each other. It wasn't the whirlwind romance people often talk about. It was simple, peaceful. It was everything I had been missing. And the best part was, her family didn't know much about me at first. They didn't have preconceived notions, and they didn't expect anything from me. I was just Oliver, the guy who had helped Amanda fix a leaky faucet, the guy who brought dessert to family dinners. But what really stood out to me was how they treated me. They welcomed me without question. They didn't use me. They didn't lean on me for money or make me feel like a walking ATM. I had been used to feeling like I was only valuable when I could offer something: money, favors, solutions. But with Amanda's family, I was just a person. They actually listened when I spoke. They included me in their conversations, in their lives, without an agenda. I wasn't the family bank. I wasn't someone they could depend on financially. I was simply a person, and for the first time in my life, it felt incredibly freeing. Then came the message from Jake. It was exactly what I had expected. No apology, no acknowledgement of what had happened between us. It was just another request. "Hey, things are bad. I'm selling my PC. Can you help cover the rest of the rent?" It was like nothing had changed, like nothing had mattered. I didn't respond right away. I took a deep breath and stared at the message for a while. I thought about the years I had spent trying to fix everything for them. I thought about the countless times I had been taken for granted, ignored, and dismissed. I was done being the person they only saw when they needed something. So I replied with one simple word: no. That was the last time I heard from any of them. There were no calls, no texts, no more requests for help. It was like they had given up on me, but strangely I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel hurt either. I just felt calm. It was like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders, and I realized something important. I was finally free. And that freedom was not something I had expected to find. I had spent so many years trapped in the role of the responsible one, the one who always picked up the slack. I had lost sight of who I was outside of that role, but with Amanda's family, I was just Oliver, the guy who helped with the grill at cookouts, the one who was invited to potlucks and family events without being expected to pay for anything or fix anyone's problems. For the first time, I wasn't defined by what I could do for others. I wasn't the one they called when things went wrong. I was just another person, valued for who I was, not for what I could provide. As for my own family, I came to realize they hadn't changed. Not really. Their crisis had come and gone, but it wasn't mine to fix anymore. I had walked away, and I had no intention of looking back. I didn't need to be the one to make everything right anymore. The guilt they tried to push on me no longer had the power it once did. I had learned to let go. The silence from them didn't bother me like it had before. In fact, it was oddly comforting. It felt like a quiet, strange freedom. I had been chasing that feeling for years, not knowing it would come not from solving their problems, but from simply walking away. And for the first time in years, I felt like I could finally breathe. I was no longer held hostage by their expectations. I was no longer shackled to the role I had been forced into. I was just living my life now, one where I could decide what was important, what mattered, and who I wanted to be. And with Amanda by my side, it was everything I never knew I needed. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more watching videos.